And welcome back to the Football Fanatic podcast. This is Monday. With me is Dan and Mossy. Howard is still AWOL. Hopefully he's okay wherever he is. Um, Great weekend of football. Hopefully tomorrow morning we're going to have an Oasis reunion announcement. And we got a lot of football to get through. Only one place to start, and that is Brighton versus Man United. We all love a bit of comedy. So let's start off with that. First of
Was the
all,
worst
actually,
comedy gig I've been at in a while, Dig. I'll give you that.
no, actually, no. I'm only joking. Obviously, it's not a comedy. But I thought the disallowed goal. I thought it was so harsh. I thought it was so wrong that it was given as a disallowed goal. Even though rules are rules, fair enough. But I mean, surely there has to be something that, like, I mean, he couldn't move. The ball was going in. Regardless, the ball was going in. He couldn't move his body. It was going to hit it inevitably, and yet the goal was still given. Sorry, it was given as a no goal. Start there, Moss. What did you think of that?
I was watching it and I didn't celebrate. I saw
Oh, really?
Xerxes' response and I was like, it's after hitting
Okay.
him. Definitely after hitting him. And I just like, what a ridiculous offside. I've
It is.
never seen such a
It-
calamitous offside in my life. And it just seems that Garnacho scores so many of these goals that you're like, United are after taking the lead, they're after coming back. But Arsenal comes to mind last year, and like Garnacho gets this amazing, finishes off great move, and like it was a beautiful bit of play. It was
Yeah.
really well played, and I was really linked up with Ahmad, and it was, or sorry, Bruno then crossed it, and it was just we're motoring here, like, and then it's just like so deflating to see it, and I just knew Brighton were going to win that game after that point. I was like, we are at this same crack again.
Uh, in
And
fairness, the defending for the Brighton winner, it was very, very poor.
yeah, yeah, it was a horrendous defending. I don't know whether part of it was that your Casemiro came out from the space to try and break. Dallo was on the right side as opposed to being left. Is that natural instinct being in the wrong place?
Yeah.
But I just thought Matthias de Ligt's face as he looked over his shoulder and realised where the hell is everybody on the left supposed to be? Like,
Yeah.
like, look, it was a beautiful ball, it was a very good clinical finish, and I thought it was a harsh result in United because I felt that as no, like first half in particular, I was like, okay, we kind of have pattern of
Yeah.
play, we're pressing well. Mount was leading the press very impressively. Look, we missed an absolute sitter of a chance from a beautiful Dallo ball into Ahmad. I don't know what he was at going with his feet. It was lined up beautifully for a
Oh,
header.
yeah.
And there's a couple of other chances like that was ruled off for offside and stuff. And poor old Rashford got a awful lot of a hate on match of the day over like by Alan Shearer criticizing his movement, like and how at 26 years of age you should know when you're offside, and repeatedly had 6 or 7 examples of him being right on the edge. I don't know if I fully go that harsh on him. I think he's burned a lot of bridges, but I
Yeah.
genuinely feel like this time of the year he's actually pushing. He's working hard. He's maybe in 6 weeks' time when you're that little sharper, he's on side for all of those. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there was like a real positive element, and then we just did something completely ridiculous and decided to stop press for one opportunity. Dallo didn't cross. I didn't close for the cross. Maguire just let it go by him. He said apparently it was that he said to Casemiro was that I couldn't see it. But I was like, you have to deal with that as a central defender. That should not go across the box. Even if
Absolutely.
you score a terrible own goal, the right thing to do is to cut that ball out.
Yeah.
And it just was such a sucker punch then to concede it. Like even Martinez, there was three decisions really. Dallo didn't press. Maguire shouldn't have let it go across, and Martinez didn't. There was two. He was on two players, and he went to the one further from goal as opposed to close to goal. So like they're individual errors, and you're seeing like the online hate towards Maguire or towards the management, towards Ten Hag, towards the players, just being outrageous. Like, oh, he has to go. He's no idea. Rashford's a terrible player. Maguire is like should have been gone 4 years ago. And last week, when they bet Fulham, it was like, well, oh, Maguire had a great game. We could give him 10 out of 10. Like, there's such a fickleness in the
I,
support that it's very, it wears you down early at times. You're nearly like, what are you doing? Did you watch this game at all? Like,
but he's
Like,
got that kind of management. Like it's like David Moyes. If you take West Ham as an example, things will be going all right, and all it'll take is just the way the kind of fan base are with him. I think it's like he won the FA Cup grand, but we can all said it here. I think, or you might said on the first part that Van Nistelrooy in the background or whoever it is, but like that foundations aren't really. They're a bit creaky with him even getting a new contract. That if it starts badly, there is a chance that
yeah,
he'd be one of the first on the chopping block. And I think it's a lot like the kind of the West Ham, and not to this exact same extent as to like the West Ham were very toxic towards David Moyes. Um, but I do think that there is that kind of element of he's one of the managers that if I think if it starts going wrong again quite quickly, it will get very, very
ugly,
um,
ugly, yeah.
ugly. And I'll be
yeah,
a bit tongue in cheek that the Glazier banners might be out again as well because they haven't been really out for quite a while. But I'm saying that respectfully, but like it is a fact as well that I think if things go bad, that would be the case. I actually think though that the system is it suits them. I agree with Massey there, like from watching the game as well. I think they were definitely worthy of a point,
Yeah.
United, and on the basis of play. Just my question mark would be like Garnacho's come on a couple of games now. We know his quality from last season. Like, should he be angling to get him in? And like Diallo hasn't disgraced himself at all since he's got into the team. So like, is the question mark whether or not would he have the metal Ten Hag to maybe drop Rashford and give Garnacho and play like that kind of the two young lads that seem fearless and seem to don't play like they have a lot of pressure on their shoulders. But Rashford every time that he talked about it and it's been talked about everywhere, so I won't talk about it anymore. But seems to be playing with no freedom at all, really, in comparison to the player from a couple of years ago. So it's just that'll be my question. Say with the big game coming next again, Rashford has a good record against Everton, mind you, so he might probably stay with him. But I just the question will be like, it will come a time if that keeps going on. Like Garnacho surely has to be putting himself in place for a starting place. But I think United were good in phases at the weekend because Brighton actually as well. In fairness to them, and we talked a lot about
yeah.
United there, but God, they were really delicious to watch as well. I think their fans are in for a good season with the new manager and kind of a continuation of just playing good football with a lot of flair players and will probably be in around the European spots, I reckon, based on the kind of the quality they have. And they're still buying, like they've spent a lot of money as well, but they seem to have a lot of good players there. Your man Minta, I thought was good, a bit wasteful, but like he didn't stop running at them. He was good. And you've always got Welbeck. I always just find Welbeck is a bizarre kind of player. He just kind
Yeah.
of pops up now and again where you get 3 or 4 goals. You get injured for 2 months, you come back and you might chip in one or two more. Just one of them kind of players that's kind of, I suppose, he's a veteran at this stage. You see, Welbeck, he's around a long time.
Yeah, he scored
Um,
his first goal, I think, 2007, 2008. Like, it's hilarious. Well, not hilarious, but it's a funny figure because he seems like he's around for so long, but he's only got his 100th career goal. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's around so long, and that was his 100th career goal against United, and he's played for Arsenal. He's played, most of his goals were at Arsenal. I think United are next, like, but he's chipped in. He started last season well for Brighton.
he
This
did, yeah.
season, he started well again. And I was super impressed with Brighton. I think there's so much quality come off the bench. Like there's strength and depth there. Like, and like
Pedro
that's
looks a player
Fergus.
as well, doesn't he?
Definitely, yeah.
Pedro, oh, he looks so
Uh,
good.
I,
Boss did so many good things, but Minter really caught my eye because I kind of had heard a lot about him from Newcastle, and when he went, there was kind of bitterness in Newcastle that we had to sell such a promising talent. And he's straight into the team. He seems to be first choice so far anyway, other than going off with a concussion in the first game, like he was straight back in. And I
yeah.
just thought that would have brought off the bench was very impressive. Milner, 38. He was up and down. I was here like Casemiro was getting stick for not moving to 32. Milner went by Harry Maguire and nearly flicked it into the net at one stage, and I was
yeah.
like, "This man is 5 years older than Casemiro." Like, but I just thought and from the back, very impressive. I think Velton or I can't
Bellingham,
remember.
yeah.
Wasn't Velton? It was the left back. I can't remember his name, but he was fourth generation Brighton player. I thought that was amazing.
Really?
He's the fourth member of his fourth generation of his family to play for Brighton professional football. I thought that was
Jesus.
so they've come from all the way up the league through. They've had a member of that family four
Just
different
class.
generations. So I thought it was very impressive.
What did you think of the Fernandez being taken off? I thought that was bizarre. I think the United fans were there was a thing online saying that they were booing McTominay coming on. I didn't know they were booing Fernandez being taken off when it was 1-1 and there was a 10, 12 minutes to go. What's the story there? So there was no injury though, like, and I thought that
No, there
was
was no injury, and
like for
it's
Fernandez, like, you know.
for Fernandez. I don't understand it because usually Fernandez plays every minute he can, like, and I don't know, is that the awareness of like, well, maybe we need to mind him a little bit more, and I don't know, but like United agreed a deal for Napoli or with Napoli for 30 million for Scott McTominay, or it seems to be subject to
Yeah.
players' terms and conditions, like, but it's a strange place to put brought him on if you intend to sell him 3 or 4 days later, where he could have got injured. I just thought it was a very way that's developed, a very strange decision. But credit where credit's due. Brighton were very impressive. I think 100% they'd be challenging. I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the battle for top 4 for a part of the season. It's just the new manager. I'd be interested to see if things go wrong, how well they respond. But like everything's going fantastically at the minute, and they've added real depth to that squad.
Yeah, they definitely bought well. They started very well. I had 2 weeks ago. I had their manager as the first to be sacked, so that's going to come back to haunt me. It's but still,
31.
he's still 31. He's younger than all of us. Like he's lack of experience. But obviously, look, I mean, it doesn't matter what age you are. He's been I heard at the weekend he's been managing since he was 23.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's in like technically he's in the game a long time. But look.
There's a lot of reports coming out of Brighton saying like that the minute he walked into the room, people were impressed and like he just demanded.
Yeah. Milner had that aura about that as well. Yeah,
that's what happens when I walk into a room. Sorry, I'm in a good mood because of the Oasis impending announcement. We'll move on. Right, Villa 0, Arsenal 2. This one took me by surprise because I saw a repeat of last season. I thought Villa were going to win this one, actually, given the start that they had against West Ham last weekend. But Arsenal, to their credit, they definitely showed a fight inside they lacked in the 2 games against Villa last season. So I suppose, look, the main question, are Arsenal a stronger team this season than they were last season? Dan?
They're 100% at least at the same level, if not, will be better with the signings that they brought in as well. I think the Moreno one thing is nearly done, isn't it? I think that's pretty much a done deal as well. So they have Thomas Partey back, who I know Howard has been talking about since I think it was Christmas last year when he'd be back. But actually, he was quite impressive, I thought, in the game. Although Rodgers gave the 2 lads a bit of a run around.
Rodgers is a player, Jesus.
It was outrageous what he was doing, like picking it up on a half turn and then just gliding by these 2 animals of Partey and Rice, who usually are hard to get by, or at least if they get by them, they get back at you. But he was gliding by them. But I actually thought Partey has been a good addition back in the Arsenal side. It'll be interesting when Moreno comes in then as well, where he'll fit in. But
Rodgers
solid.
Sorry to cut across you, Dan. Rodgers is actually with City, kind of came through the youth setup. And I remember playing Football Manager a couple of years ago. And there was this player, M. Rodgers, right? And he had like so much potential. And like he obviously nothing came of it.
What did you do with him? You quick sold him, did you?
I made a bit of money on him, but now I'm thinking, all right, that's the lad. That was him. He's actually a really, really good player. And I mean, he was some of the runs he was making.
Yeah,
it was insane.
I do think though that Arsenal, like, they did give up a few chances, and again on another day it could have been. I think they give up more chances against Villa, I think, than in many games they'd had last season. Look, it is only the start of the season, and Rodgers just, I think, had one of them games where he was just unplayable, wasn't he?
Yeah,
but
he was.
I think their ex. I think Martinelli is a bit of an issue, and I think his numbers last season were poor. We would have talked about it here when Trossard came in here at the tail end of last season. He's exceptional, and when he came on there, he scored within about 2 minutes. But even his all-round game, in the 20 minutes or so he was on, he was much better than Martinelli. So I think probably one now where Trossard might get in, but Martinelli just doesn't look like that player who was a couple of seasons ago was scintillating, like he was unplayable at times.
Yeah, true.
He hasn't at that level. But I do think that there will be a course will be thereabouts. They're going to be hard bet. Defensively again, gave up a few chances, but as a whole, when you look at it, then you have Calafiori who came on. Timber, actually, I thought in particular, I think I put it into the WhatsApp. I think he surprised me as to how good on the ball he was. He was drifting into midfield, and he's the pace that Zinchenko doesn't have. I think to get back in, as well. So I thought he was really, really good, and I think Havertz, in fairness to him as well, like, he works like a dog. I think he's durable. Jesus obviously isn't. He was out injured again. But I think in fairness, Havertz has proved me wrong in the sense of that he's come out again at the start of this season now, fire in the belly. And I think he'll chip in. Like he's solid, I think, now in that role. I think he's made it his own. I don't think he'll be going back into midfield too much this season. I think he'll probably play in that kind of a role as the physical attacker.
Is he a 20 a goal season?
Look, the argument is
No.
it's whether or not. No, but it's whether. Yeah, no, fair enough. No, I don't think he is. But the argument is like last season they went so close. They had the most goals in the league, didn't they? By the end, without a striker. Yeah. So the question is, are you going to go and spend a chunk load of money? I suppose the argument being Zeus isn't durable. They're selling Nketiah. I think he's going to Forest, is it, or somewhere? Yeah. So the question's going
no, that's after falling through. He's gone, I reckon it's Crystal Palace he's going to know.
Right, okay.
Which is an interesting move by Palace, I thought.
Yeah, the question is like what do you do there? Like if Havertz can't play every single game, and then Jesus, he is the impact on the amount of minutes he's going to get. So like I don't know. I would struggle with that, but I think I suppose to answer the question, yes, I think that they need a striker. I think that Ostenheim, I've mentioned it here before in the podcast, that it will be something different for them. Where Havertz goes, then I don't know, because I think he's been exceptional for them. So is it worth bailing out a chunk of money, given you got the most goals last season? But it always feels like there's something extra they're going to need to beat City, I think, but I feel they should probably get a striker in if and if it's the likes of an Ostenheim or something like that. But again, it was so close last season. They went to the last day, you know what I mean? And the Arsenal squad is so young. I think the Chargers actually, though, I know we were talking about that when the trial starts, but I actually think it could be a distraction for City. I could imagine them maybe envision them losing a few points over that period of time with all the media and all the questions that'll be around at that time. And that's where I kind of think that Arsenal might just sneak it, because I think that trial and all the goings on with it, regardless of what the outcome is, I think will be a distraction for City. So anyway, that's my long-winded answer to the question.
You know what?
Can I jump in on Villa, Deck, before you get back to your trial? Go on, go for it, sir.
You're obsessed with the Chargers. You're obsessed with them, like every week. Moss, you're not innocent here either. You've been on the episode like what, 3 episodes so far, and you've brought up the Chargers as well, and Howard's fecking in this as well. You're all obsessed with these Chargers, okay? Now they've been hanging over City for the last since 21, is it 3 years? And I mean, they've still obviously it's there. It's been talked about, but like it hasn't disrupted their play. They've gone on. They've won the Champions League in that time. They've won 3 Premier League titles in that time.
But there's a difference though. Like there's a difference. I'm talking about what actually goes to trial. It's going to be in the media every single day. There's going to be people around the city, around the club. They're going to have to be going in, probably being having to defend their case. I just think like. It's one thing it being in the media. Like if you think about it, like as you said, the Chargers have been there since 2021. It was only at the tail end last season, really, when City were looking like they were going to win the league. Everyone started like, "Hey, what about the fucking Chargers?" Even though it had been sitting there, it only kind of started really kind of being pushed, I think, in the media near the tail end of last season. And Sky, I don't think really covered themselves justice in covering it enough, actually, based on as a whole. But like it is slightly different, like when it's actually in trial, in session, week to week. Pep is going to be asked about it at every single press conference. There is going to be players there who are going to be sitting there kind of in the back of their minds thinking, fuck, what happens now if something goes awry here for us and it's going to impact on us? So it is a different scenario to winning a league with it hanging over you and actually going to court, as in actually going to be a trial, which and have a start date for it, which we do now. I think it's going to be. I am obsessed to a point, because I think that it's a very, very interesting case. I think that for the integrity of the game, it is probably the biggest scandal that has ever hit football. And if it's deemed to be what City are being accused of. So I think for us to sit here and say it's not just a City dig and that you're on the podcast, I think in general, fair enough, Liverpool finished second a couple of times. But, as other clubs, there's talk about them actually suing City if it turns out that they are guilty off the back of it as well for losing out on prize money and that. So, but I do think that the integrity of the game has been brought definitely into question with the charges that are there, regardless of what the penalty will be, whether it be a fine, whether it be something that'll be, we'll see what comes out from it. As I said to you before, when we talked about this in the pod last year, I think that there's a chance that it'll be settled in some regard. There'll be some sort of even of something that will probably end up with City not getting a big punishment. But I feel that if it is that they are guilty, and again we are in the ifs, buts, and maybes, but if they are guilty like in that as well, there should be a significant punishment because
Yeah, I agree.
when you see what happened to other clubs for very little in comparison, who have got 6 or 8 point deductions, there has to be. So it has to be talked about. Fair enough. It might be a bit over egged and over talked about here now, but that's because you're on the podcast deck, and we have to keep you on your toes.
Keep me on my toes, absolutely. But just this idea of it taken away from our football, I think the evidence is there that so far it hasn't.
I don't think the suggestion, Deck, is that it takes away from your football. It's the suggestion that your football has been developed on this breach of the code or whatever, that your club are in that position because of in the past. It's not, no one's questioning the quality that is City and the quality of football they play.
I understand that. What I'm saying is what Dan said, that our eyes will kind of come off the ball because of the charges and the trial being in the background this season, that he thinks
naturally.
I appreciate that.
It's funny. I actually completely disagree with that. I think it's
have your say, Moss.
For Pep to batten down the hatches and is like, everyone's coming for us.
Pep versus the world.
That siege mentality. Yeah, and I feel that it kind of is reminiscent of his first season, not to the same degree, but Pep came in with this huge reputation and the expectation was going to win straight away, and he hadn't really had success that was expected in Bayern. And at the end of that first season, he didn't perform. It wasn't the performance that people expected. And that season, he cleared out and whatever. And the next thing, they came back with over 100 points. It was like, right, I have this stuff. And he was so defiant in that initial press conference that you were nearly listening to him when the charges were brought and he had the press conference. I've heard several reporters talk about how impressive he spoke, that you would follow that man into battle after listening to him. So I just think it'll be, we're going for 5 in a row. Everyone doesn't want us to do it. We're going to show them, and we're going to go for the highest point total ever. I could be completely wrong, but that would be the sense I get from having kind of looked at Pep's character and how he deals with those things. And I will say he will focus completely on the football and try and he will deal with the media questions in relation to the rest of it, and the players there be like, we're going to prove this wrong. That would be how I think he would deal with the situation.
Fair point. And I suppose on City, the weekend result was 4-1, despite the charges hanging over us. Haaland still continues to score. My next question is on Haaland himself, I suppose. How good can he become? Dan, I'm going to go back to you on this one. Can he reach the level of, the top professional players like Messi, Ronaldo-esque, or is he always going to be a level below, do you think?
No, I think numbers-wise, if you look at it at face value, so since he's been at City, he's on Ronaldo Messi's level. Yeah. I'd argue whether if Messi or Ronaldo were in the Premier League, whether to be able to do what he is currently doing, numbers-wise, because it is a fair haul in his time, and I think he stays at City for a number of years, pending the charges, pending where they end up. But if he can continue the kind of the trajectory that he's going, he's going to get goals. Do you know what I mean? There's so many good players in that City team. I would question just a small bit about him. When it comes into the Champions League, the latter stages, I'd like to see him at that stage kind of really go and give a few hidings to a few of the big teams in Europe, and even in the Premier League as well, to go and get a hat trick against one of maybe the big couple of teams, because the record against them isn't as good as it is now. In fairness, most players' records aren't as good against the big teams as they are the small teams, so I wouldn't just single them out just on that. Although if you look at his hat tricks that he scored, most of them have been against shite teams. But anyway, I think he is. I
think he got a hat trick.
All due respect to Ipswich there, yeah.
I think he did. He did get a hat trick United. It's not all of them, but most of them. Yeah. A few against Wolves, I think, and whatever. Anyway, but I think he's an exceptional talent. He's only, again, what is he? 22? Is he 23?
24.
It's outrageous. You know what I mean? Physically, he's that kind of Drogba, I think, kind of vibe I get off him, but no one seems to be able to handle him. Any defender really comes up again. Maybe Saliba might be the only exception based on, I thought last season he was one that could give it to him, but he's exceptional. And I think if he stays there, he'll break all the records. He probably will in time become the greatest striker in the Premier League if he still remains at City and doesn't want to move to Europe at some stage. He will break all the records, given what numbers he's putting in. He's going to be banging out 40 this season.
That was my next question, I suppose. Say charges aside, say he does Well, he's into his third year at City now. Say there's another 2, 3 years. He'll have 6 years at City. He'll be 27, 28, 27, whatever. Will he stay at City, do you think, long term? Or do you think a player like that has aspirations to go to Spain, to join the Real Madrid? Because, I mean, Real Madrid, like Barcelona, I wouldn't really consider them, top. Do you think do you think he'll stay at City for the long term? Or could he go to Real Madrid in a few years?
I think it goes back to the question that Mossy would have said last week. It'll depend on the strength of the Premier League, whether the other leagues have that kind of strength, I
Yeah,
suppose, to lure him financially. He's on a monstrous contract at City. There isn't anyone else, I don't think, maybe Bar Madrid or Saudi, that could afford to pay him what he's on. So that'll be the other kind of part of it is who else in Europe can afford to pay him the sort of
yeah,
money that he'll require. So I don't see him being attracted to a move Barrett to Madrid, but they're after signing Mbappe. What age is
Mbappe,
Mbappe?
yeah.
Similar age. So I can't imagine they'll be looking at a Haaland anytime soon. So I'd see him at City for a long time, and I think he will break all sorts of records. And you're probably looking at the market for him is going to be somewhere between 30 and 40 a season, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, fair
Anyway,
point. Moss, what do you
Yeah,
think?
it's funny. I think it's interesting the way you phrased the question. You said a player in the same irk as kind of Ronaldo and Messi, and like to be honest, I don't think you can. Maybe Ronaldo you can compare because Ronaldo by the latter half of his career was a goal scorer as opposed to an all-round footballer. Like the team made work for his lack of work ethic in Madrid with Benzema, etc. He scored goals, and the team was set up just for him. Like Haaland gets a lot of criticism for his all-round play. Like he's not overly involved in the build-up. He will score goals, and it's the hardest part of the game, and that's why he is so lauded. But I wouldn't consider him like he's without quality supplied to him. He gets probably 6, 7 chances a
Yeah,
game with the quality of City. Like if you, I just have it. Bournemouth's new signing there, Evan Nielsen, in my head, like where he gets 1 or 2 chances a game, and you're at that level, and you have to score them. I actually would be intrigued to see how Allen would perform in a team like that. Obviously, he's never going to be there because he's
yeah.
such a clinical finisher.
but
But
he was in one though. He was in one, and
I
he banged
suppose,
in chances. You know what I mean? If you look
yeah,
at how
okay,
he got to City,
yeah. To be fair,
you
yeah.
know, yeah.
To
I
be fair, yeah.
think,
In I suppose Dortmund, I suppose, but Dortmund wouldn't have been to top level. I just don't think he will probably be the best goal scorer,
Yeah.
and a lot will depend on him staying on Pep and what happens post Pep. And I think, and not many players would refuse the opportunity to go to Madrid when they're such a machine at turning out Champions League, etc. And I have reservations how well Mbappe is going to do in Madrid. So
yeah, I
if
just,
Pep was to leave, I wouldn't be crazily surprised if Haaland was a target of Madrid in the not too distant future.
Can we just throw out the question though? Like, if you ask me now, and I would have been the same last season, I take Haaland over Mbappe, and I'll
Oh,
wait
100%, yeah.
Mbappe to go to Madrid and bang in Ronaldo numbers. So the jury for me will be out on him then. I know, fair enough, he's been good for France, especially in a couple of big finals, or whatever like that. But like at domestic level, he can't. I'm not saying he's not a good player, but he's been talked about in that same bracket as the Messi, Ronaldo's. As you said, Mossy, he's easier on the eye. Like I think it was Keane last season. He was a League Two player at times, watching Haaland. And I
yeah,
agree with him. As in at times, the build up, the ball's bouncing off him. He's not in the game. He's not getting any touches at all. But at the same time, in the games where he's not non-existent last season, and especially before he got the injury, he was non-existent a lot of them games, but he was still scoring. And that's, as you said, Mossy, I agree with you. It's the
yeah.
goal scoring part of it. I think he'd be there with. In regards to an overall player, I'd argue like Salah is a much better one to watch than the likes of Haaland. There's been many others on Reed. There's been many others that have been better quality all rounders. But I do think he will break all the records. But for me, Haaland, I'd have Haaland ahead of Mbappe every day of the week.
I just, no, and you both make very valid points. I suppose coming from Dortmund, like at Dortmund, he scored a lot of different goals than he's scoring at City. You see him using his pace a lot at Dortmund, running from the halfway line, and the ball is played in behind. And I'd love to see that type of goal being scored more. Like I remember his first game for City against West Ham when De Bruyne put him through, and he ran from probably the halfway line. I haven't seen many of that type of goal that Haaland has scored for City. It's been very much in the box. So, but again, that's just the way that City play. But I
I think
suppose,
part of that is the Premier League too. A lot of teams their defensive line is a lot higher and
Of
they
course.
have a lot more pace compared to the Bundesliga.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the same facility to do that.
Yeah, I just
They
do
also
think
know
that,
when he can do it, though. They also
yeah,
know if they
fair
drop
point.
off because they're not going to play a high like Liverpool do it. They're one of the few that will take the chance. Maybe Arsenal as well, but there's not many that will play that high line knowing
Yeah.
he's fucking rapid quick, isn't he?
That's the thing. Like, I'd love to
Yeah.
see him make those runs more, and for City players to kind of be picking up on that because he tried it in his first season a lot, but obviously it's drilled into City not to kind of play that ball. Maybe De Bruyne aside, but it's very much kind of build up. You know, work your way to the goal. Where for a lot of the first season, Haaland was just running in behind and nothing was being
Mm.
given to him. And yeah, I would love to see more of that.
The Pep point that Mossy makes, I think, though, is a fairly valid one as well. Like, it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
again, the more than the Klopp thing, whenever Pep does decide, I don't know what the way it'll all work out from. And he's been offered a new deal. I think I read somewhere they offering him a new deal. So whether or not he signs it, whether or not he waits for what happens with the trial, whatever like that. But I think if he was to go again, like again, whether or not Haaland will still have the way City play, it's very hard to know. That would be the one question mark as well over the numbers and the
yeah.
style of play, whether a new manager would suit Haaland. Yeah.
All right. Just on the remaining games, couple of questions, I suppose. We'll start off with Spurs and Everton. What do Everton do? Deitch said as well, there is no money to spend.
Mm.
I heard someone at the weekend saying they're missing Ashley Young this weekend. So I mean, when that's the point that they're making, that's not a good sign.
I would say Jared Brandwaite is higher on that list now, to be fair.
Yeah, they're missing their front partnership, aren't they, there at the moment? Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Like,
Look,
is this the season they go?
if Everton go, it's going to be absolutely detrimental to that club. They're such a fine
Yeah.
line financially, and if their first season of this new stadium is in the Championship, it's a really bleak situation. They need to sort out the takeover situation. There's so much
Absolutely.
going on off the field that it has to eventually, I think he built a bit of a mentality last year, like, look, we're going to overcome this. And there is still the Dyche factor, and I don't think fans are going to turn on Dyche because they know what he's trying to work with, and the inability to refresh that squad. But I think watching Onana for the last day for Villa, I didn't watch a lot of Everton last year, but my God, does he give your midfield energy? And
he's a monster,
and he's such a monster. He's so good in the air. He gets through so much work, and I just was like, they're really missing that in the middle here, and they just can't score. Like Dwight McNeil could have be on the same number of goals as Haaland at this stage between the chances he missed last week and this week, and he just cannot finish them. And I just see Spurs needed a game like that. On the other hand, they needed to go, yeah, we're still here. But like Pickford, it was such a devastating blow to the team to give them away the second goal. And then when you see your centre back like Van der Ven is able to run through the centre of your midfield and give a slip pass out to Son, the fastest player in the Premier League. I know that it's hard to keep up with him. Jesus, it was so easy. Like, you have to.
That's the problem, isn't it? Thing. Yeah, that's the problem. I watched a good bit of the game actually, and like as you said there, the Pickford mistake, but like Spurs were, if you look, I thought Maddison in particular in the first two games this season, I think looks like the Maddison that was signed by Spurs last year. He went off the boil the second half of the season, but anything good that's going to go through Spurs this season will go through him. And I thought they were missing Solanke, but Son through the middle as well. Again, he's just such a solid. He's at 8, 9 out of 10 most weeks.
Yeah.
And Everton just couldn't cope with them at all.
Yeah. How do you pronounce it? Audebert that they bought from Bern. I thought he was very impressive, and there's a bit of depth there in Spurs that they can rotate now. They can give Maddison a break. They're trying to develop Gray coming in. Like, they've bought a lot of good young players there at Spurs, and I was kind of going, like, I think they will always have that Spurs element about them, but I think there is a good season in that team, like, and Ange takes a lot of risks, so they need to score goals, I suppose.
There's a big couple of games. Sorry, just a big couple of games coming up for Everton. Like, I was looking at their fixtures and that as well. It's like they'll have home games against Palace and Bournemouth, kind of coming up. It go away to Villa and then it go away to Leicester. Like, but it's early days. Remember last season we were writing off Everton as well, and it's funny that there's been payouts on them to get relegated already. The betting companies are paying out on them, but like, it is early days. Their squad is very light though. It's very, very light. There was talk of Trippier coming in. I don't know whether that, like, if you were Trippier, you're sitting the bench at Newcastle and fucking go in at the moment to the cesspool at Everton. But it is early days for them. I wouldn't rule out Deitch kind of getting them solid, get Brathwaite back if he stays. There's a few days left in the window, but like they have a few games coming up there. Like they play Leicester and Ipswich away. You know, their fixtures are kind of coming up. You could argue Brighton have started really well. Everton could have got something out of that game, and then again, would you fancy Everton getting away at Spurs? Probably not. So I think there's bigger games coming up for them, and they'll need to pick up points though. You know,
Definitely.
I think it'll come down to who they beat when, like, against the three that have been promoted. Can Everton are Everton better than them? Can they beat them? So I think that Leicester game mid-September, I think that will be the real first we need to win this game. I think for Leicester or for Everton. Sorry.
All right. Next game, Bournemouth versus Newcastle, 1-1. But I suppose the biggest talking point of this game was the disallowed goal. Personally, I thought it was ridiculous. I mean, there was no intent, obviously, to use the hand, but of course there never is, and that's not going to stop the ref from blowing a whistle. What did you make of this? Dan, what did you think?
I just thought that even the VAR thing, I think Carragher talked about it, like they said it was factual handball. Like, I don't know how many times I looked at it. To be able to say, you know, you wouldn't put your mortgage on that was a definite handball. You couldn't.
Of course.
I thought it was unfair on Bournemouth. I also thought on the balance of play. I haven't been impressed in Newcastle in the opening two games at all, even before they went down to 10 men last week. And I thought there was a couple of minutes in the game when you got the goal, but for me, Bournemouth were much better than them, I thought, on the day. And I worry about the workmanlike midfield that Newcastle seem to have at the moment. I think Tonali coming back in will be a big one for them. But I think the midfield of Longstaff, Bruno and Joe Linton, like they weren't able to get forward and weren't able to create any sort of openings for Isak. I think Harvey Barnes is one. It's a weird one. Like he's a good player, but Gordon plays on the left. He plays on the left. I don't know how you'd fit both of them in unless maybe you try Gordon.
To be fair to him, he's come on off the bench in the last two games and made a big impact. Barnes.
And last season,
he's definitely putting his hand. And he's putting his hand up there, but he's realistically probably not going to get hit in ahead of Gordon. But like, I was very impressed with Bournemouth. I thought Semenyo just looks.
He did.
I watched him the first game, and I was like, he's very impressive. And again, he was really, really good. I said to you last year, I'm not a big Bournemouth fan, but they hasn't playing really good football. Bought well. I think that Evan Nielsen that they bought from Porto, 40 million was a huge amount of money, but I think he has a great record in Portugal if he can adapt. And they look like a really solid top half kind of team at the minute, I think, Bournemouth. And Newcastle don't really look much better than that.
They're off it, they are. And even the Trippier situation is messy because it's, I was saying, he wants him to stay, but he's stripped him of the captaincy. Bruno's captain. So, like, what's going on there? That's a strange one. And then defensively, they're really struggling. Like, they're missing Botman. Char is out for 3 games, but Botman was a serious player for them last season, and he's out. So I know they're in the market for a centre back, but like you're relying on your man Kraft there at centre back, and even as well the kind of playing Hull 1 week, not playing the next. Like they need to get like that solid back four that they have. I see that they're interested now. It looks like they're going to bid again for Trafford of Burnley, which I think is a very strange one because I look at Nick Pope and he's solid. He's a solid goalkeeper. There's other parts of the Newcastle team that need seeing to at the moment that wouldn't be there, but they do have, I think, a big Rolls Royce and Tonali to come back in to the side, but they just haven't. They surprised me that they haven't started the season well. And like they play Spurs next week would be an interesting game. I think they're home to Spurs. So,
no, definitely.
In terms of Joe Linton, did you think the clothesline should have been yellow card or red card? WWE move there, just going straight for the.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it was. They were very quickly. The commentary team went red card, like it was nearly a Stonewall red. Like it was very cynical. It was dirty. Or I don't know if you watched like a lot of Bruno last year for Newcastle. He's doing that every week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, he was. It's kind of just in him. I think it's kind of in Newcastle to be kind of physical, to be overly aggressive at times. It wasn't.
I will say one of my highlights of the weekend was Ben White kicking the ball at John McGinn after John McGinn kicked it at Saliba. I enjoyed that massively.
John McGinn is a little bit of a knacker as well, isn't he?
He likes that little rough element in it. He likes that. But I love John McGinn. I love watching him play because he's just so good at like aggravating people and he thrives off it. But that was one little bit of it I enjoyed.
All right, so the remaining fixtures of the weekend. So Dan need a very good win, 2-0 against Brentford. Slot continues to cook well.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it was a Michelin star performance second half
I like it.
from Salat. Yeah, no, it was good. Again, look, it's very early stages, and a big
Of
test
course.
coming up with the Noble talk about coming up. I think coming up this Sunday. I think will be an interesting one for Gravenberg because he's been good in the open 2 games. But I'd like to see him put in the deep end of Old Trafford to see how he does in the sixth role. Um, unless he buys something in between now and then, which is doubtful, I think. But I was impressed. Yeah, in particular, actually, like look, Salah has started the season well. The front three seem to be just there seems to just be like is there a second or two less fast and furious? And what I've noticed is, especially with Jota playing in the kind of false nine role, their balance is really well. Their kind of interchanging is really really good. It's like that. It's not as frantic, and it's just allowing them to like pick their pass. I know Slot talked about that. I think about that his side of play is going to be slower, more kind of build up. And the things I was impressed about, I was impressed with Kanate coming in. I thought he won like every aerial duel. He was a monster at the back. I thought he done really, really well because I had a question mark over him, but I thought he was excellent. Sabazalai, I thought his running and kind of playing in that 10 role at times kind of getting beyond the front players. I thought he was excellent. He looked very, very good for me. And our when we went in front and in the second half, like Brentford, of course, like when it's 1-0 and set pieces, like they had a few monsters. It just never, were they
Yeah.
always that big? It reminded me of something like a fucking Space Jam with like these lads, like they're just foot tall in the box. But I thought that the way we were able to hold on to the ball under Klopp, one of the biggest criticisms I would have had, especially last season, was in games where we were cruising, going well, we weren't able to kind of game management very poor. And I thought yesterday, and once we got a grip of the game against Ipswich and went in front, I think our game management and holding on to the ball, that risk reward thing that's a lot of talk about was very good. So I'm very happy with the first couple of games, and like look, big tests I think next weekend will kind of tell a lot as well.
Right.
You expect Liverpool to get 6 points from the opening two, and they have. So there's a lot to work on, and yeah, I think there's definitely, when you look at our squad, I think Gapco and Nunes coming on, it'll keep the other lads on their toes in their front positions. Like,
Yeah.
Diaz, I would have sold him potentially in the summer if a big bid had came in from, but he was excellent yesterday as well. But anyway, that's two from two.
Yeah, I think he is aware of what Klopp was doing. He's very in tune with what Klopp was doing, and seems to be like, I'm tweaking it. I'm not rearranging it. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm bringing my own elements to a game that was already established. Like even in his post-match interview, he mentioned like I'm the style of press or something has been there for 9 years. Do you know, like he isn't trying to completely break it down and put an entire new style. And the players seem to be relishing that little bit more control. That would be the impression. They just seem to be enjoying their football. And I was so impressed with, like, Brentford are like a hard team usually to break down, and they just cut through them. So like, I suppose maybe criticism you could have is they should have scored more goals. Like there should have been more goals in it. But I just think from a United point of view, where I'm looking at a manager who's here 2-3 years and I'm like, what's his playing style? We're starting to put together a style 3 years in. Like Slot has come in, tweaked what is there, but it's very apparent what he is doing. And that's a serious compliment to how he's working with his players, communicating with his players, and they then buying into his system. So it's a serious start, and it'll be interesting to see what happens on Sunday.
And he's only had them for 2 weeks. This is the thing as well. Like he literally, half that squad only came back 2 weeks ago, or 2.5 weeks ago as well. So it's very early days. But yeah, as you said there, you can see it's a tweak as opposed to, it's not brand new, alien to the players. So it is. Look, it's positive. I'm positive so far. Anyway, again, it'll be like all things when the first blip comes, how it responds to that. We will probably, like everything, get found out. Other teams will find out what ways to try and nullify our threats. But yeah, like Salah's been on it. Like he's been excellent as well in the opening 2 games. And I think for us to have a big season, like he's going to have to be putting up 20-25 goals because of the 3. Jota is good, like, in as well, but I still don't envision Diaz hitting double figures.
Yeah,
I'd have doubts about that. Where Salah is the one, I think, keeping him fit. He can keep rolling like he has in previous seasons.
definitely.
Yeah, I think it'll be a decent season. Yeah.
And then the remaining ones, so Palace 0, West Ham 2, Southampton 0, that's Forest 1, and then finally Wolves 2, Chelsea 6, which is an insane score. What do you call it? Just two-word, Cole Palmer. Amazing.
in the
Again,
10. In the 10.
ridiculous. Like how good he is. His goal was outstanding, and then just three assists. His vision. It's like it's a big case of kind of what could have been had he stayed at City. Like, but I mean, look, he made his decision and it's benefited. He's doing brilliant because of it. Yeah, what do you make
It
of it?
was a highly entertaining game to watch.
Yeah,
It could have been 6-all for all the chances Wolves
Could have
had.
been, yeah.
But it was entertaining. I'll give him that. I just found Madueke scoring the same goal 3 times in a row
oh,
ridiculous. It just looked like you recreated it, and it's like, how have they not figured this out? But yeah, listen. And after his tweet saying that it was Wolves was shit before the
yeah,
match, I got
yeah,
booed the whole way through it. Like it was some response, but like Cole Palmer just was boss that game. Like he
ridiculous.
he wasn't really involved in the first game. He seemed very like I was like, oh no, is he having second season kind of syndrome? I said it to the lads. I took him out of my fantasy football team and put in Saka because I was like, Jesus, he's way off the pace. And then he
Yeah,
just showed up and scored a beautiful goal. Just connected the play really well. Doesn't seem to like get stressed or phased by the situation. He just seems so cool, calm, collected. And yeah, I suppose as a Chelsea fan, you're after seeing him sign a 9-year contract. You're probably currently delighted about it. But
yeah.
like you can
Ever,
see that Chelsea will concede goals. Chelsea are going to concede goals,
Yeah,
and they're going to try and outscore people.
yeah.
That seems to be what's going to happen.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like when you look at it, as Massey said there, like it could have been 6-all. Problem they have is so they move Palmer into the 10, right? So realistically, it's kind of like nearly what we've said for Foden for a couple of years. We want him to move into the centre where he caused damage. He caused a lot of damage last season on the right. The problem they're going to have though is obviously defensively. I know he does work quite hard, but he is attack minded. But Enzo and Caicedo in the middle of the park for Chelsea, like it's a recipe for disaster.
yeah,
Enzo was just not able to play that kind of deep role, that kind of dog to do the dogged side of it. I don't think he's good enough or strong enough. I don't think to do that. So I'd be with Massey there. I think it'll be a bit of that. It'll be an interesting season for Chelsea, though. Like I said, to watch them. Madueke, we mentioned him in the podcast here a couple times last season. The tail end of last season, he looked decent when he got a chance. And he's one there where I think I think was it he? I think United tried to get him before he went to PSV. I think he was. I think on United's
But sure,
radar, and then he went.
There was questions that he was currently being like looked at for being sold like 4 days before
Yeah,
this game.
yeah.
So you're like, will he be in the squad next week, or will he have been sold for 70
Will his
million?
value go up?
just
Yeah,
actually speaking of kind of being sold and etc. The whole transfer window. What do you make of Enzo Maresca kind of banishing Raheem Sterling? What do you make of that whole situation, Dan?
I agree with him.
You agree to banish him?
I don't think he should have handled it as publicly as he did. But if you don't want him, and they've got so many players, he needs to sort it out. I'm not a big Sterling fan. I never have been. I always felt like he blows hot and cold. He's had every ounce of support. He's been with the best managers, and he still couldn't be consistent. All the raw ingredients, great. I just think mentality has let him down on several occasions, and I don't like. He doesn't. He's not. They don't want him. Like he has to move on someone, and their average wage bill is 70K in Chelsea under their new system. Sterling's on 300 plus. Like he's the natural one you need to get rid of. He should be at the peak of his career, but I feel like at 28, he's only 28, but he's waning. So I think Maresca has made a bold call, but the problem is I don't know where he's going to go. And
That was my next question. Where do you think he'll go?
But I like what he's done, Maresca, firstly, though. As much as I was disappointed with the way he treated Conor Gallagher, though, in particular. I think Sterling made a rod for his own back, though, with the statement. I think he wasn't in the team, throw the toys out of the pram, and then so what's Maresca to do? Maresca has to lay down the law here that you can't be doing that. And it probably was an excuse for him to try. I think nearly it suited, I think, both parties for that to come out, to be honest, try and get him out of the club. But I like what he's actually done. He said I have 40 odd players, but I'm only whatever he's working with, 24 or 23. That's what he's working with. So he's very quickly decided this is what I'm working with, and the rest he can just find new clubs. Even though we can question whether or not one or two of them should or shouldn't be there. As for where he'll go, I have a feeling that he'll end up potentially still in London. And I know Arteta came out quite strongly talking about him,
Well,
Whether or not that potentially
Yep,
would
in
turn into a
support, yeah.
bid, yeah, I don't know. But when you look at all the other top clubs, they don't need left-sided players. So I think if he's going to move and he wants to stay in London, you're looking at potentially maybe a Palace. Fulham have already signed a few players, but maybe a Fulham. I don't see it depending on where he wants to stay based, but I don't see any of the top clubs. Maybe a West Ham possibly could be one, but
a
I
loan
don't think.
a loan move to Arsenal.
I think it'll be a loan move regardless because his wages must
Because
have
of his
there.
wages.
There's no one going to be forking out 300 grand for Sterling. Like I think he done well to get that, and I think if nobody else, only Chelsea would have paid that wages for him at the time when he was sold from City. So look, I think he won't get it unless he's going to move on elsewhere. I know there was talk Juventus looking for a left-sided player. Talk now that they've made talk. I think they've touched base around Sancho. You know, whether or not Sterling would be someone that they might eye up, but can't see a top club, one of the top teams in the league going from. Would it be out of the rounds for him to just sit there? I could see that.
I wouldn't be. I actually wouldn't be
could see that.
surprised if he sat there.
Yeah, I could see
that
that he sat
happening.
there,
And
play with the under 20 or the under 23s, take his 300 grand, and then look at January or the summer.
I honestly think that if he does that though, he may as well never play football again. Like that's just.
It'd be a complete waste. Absolutely.
You're earning 300k. Fair enough. You want to keep it, but like you haven't proved it. You weren't playing the end of the season. Poch decided that you weren't up to scratch. Maresca is saying you're not up to scratch. They want you out. Like you can expect. You're 28. You should be the peak of your powers. Like, and you just seem disinterested. If he does that, it's a shocking indictment of his personality and his approach and his professionalism to make that decision. I think I'd prefer to go to second division and get $5,000 a week and play the sport that I apparently love. Like it's not like he's stuck for money or anything. I can't fathom like it's just pure stubbornness and like Sancho at United just because no one else is going to pay those wages and you're just like you insulted the manager, like you're not getting on with the manager wants rid of you, like go find.
Yeah, there's a similar trait there between both of them, isn't there? Actually, in kind of their behavior in the media. I just think that there's a problem though when Maresca or any manager thinks that Sterling is worse than Mudryk. I think that one has just not worked out at all. Like Sterling actually, when he got into the Chelsea team, might have set the world alight, but he was doing all right in a few of the games. Where for me, I haven't seen a full 90-minute decent performance from Mudryk since he went to Chelsea.
But I think Mudryk is a bat that Chelsea are beating with because he has never been able to deal with the pressure that's been put on him because they spent stupid money on, and he was kind of the first player in this project that everyone thought was madness, and that's kind of always going against him. And although he's a young player, like that's a huge amount of pressure to deal with, and you are kind of the symbol for the club of where the club went wrong. So like he is fighting an uphill battle there all the time. Yeah. There's clearly a player in there somewhere. He just hasn't been able to get going for whatever reason at Chelsea. Like, but I can't see him going to West. Couldn't see Sterling going to the likes of West Ham. Like West Ham, like they're hard-working people like Bowen and like or they have Paquet. They're attacking front 3 or 4, but Paquet, Kudos, and Bowen. They don't need him. Like he wouldn't fit into that system. Yeah. And they were like impressive at Palace the last day. That easily could have gone either way. Like, but I honestly can see that happen where he sits there. But I think it's an awful way to let your career peter out if that's what he decides to do.
Yeah. You might end up with you could end up in Italy or somewhere. I think if like some Napoli maybe or someone get Ostenheim off the books. Conte is looking for money to get players in, maybe somewhere like that. But he could end up.
That's interesting, but I honestly don't know where who's going to pay the money for him. Like,
well, they're definitely running out of time. Friday deadline is ticking away. So I suppose we'll move on very quickly. Time is against us. So the next segment, I want you all to name one player you would love your team to sign. Okay, in the last few days. Like, it's not obviously, it's just fantasy. Just pick a player you would love kind of playing at the moment that you would love in your Liverpool or your Man United or for me, Man City side. So, Mas, we'll start with you.
I kind of picked a realistic one that I think could be realistic initially, in that I think Tony would be a great signing for United at the minute, considering how toothless we look up front and could do with someone with kind of that post.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I can definitely see Tony playing for United.
Ideally, I'd love Haaland, but like I went, I'd probably go with something a little bit more realistic. So
You nearly got
I
him,
think,
or not you nearly, you were trying to get him.
yeah, we were. If someone would have backed Ali at the time, it would have been a different story. But yeah,
def
look, I just think Tony is a realistic option that is available right now. That he's 20, he's not ancient, like he still probably has 4 or 5 good years in him. He's going to cost you 40 million, and like you got 30 million for Scott McTominay. Look, make it work. Kind of would be my look on it, but because we're so light at the centre, like you're talking about Highland, who's so young
yeah, fair enough.
and like not a critical finisher. So yeah, Tony would be me who I'd be shouting for if I had to make a realistic call.
Okay, Dan for Liverpool.
Yeah, look, I actually had one that I think would be a good signing for Liverpool and United, but he's not my pick. But it was Robinson at the left back at Fulham. I watched him a bit at the weekend, and I watched him
Anthony
last
Robson,
season.
yeah.
Yeah, I think he looking at our options with Robertson slowing down and Simicast, I don't think he's good enough. So he was just one I thought that could be. But actually, my player is Gay at Palace because that move for Newcastle seemed to. It's not. There's nothing concrete there as of yet. And the talk is if Gomez goes, we're going to be looking at a centre back. So if I was Slot and I was Richard Hughes now, I would be getting Gay to Liverpool for 2 reasons. One being I think that he's excellent to talk, even outside the Euros. I think he's been solid for Palace the last couple of years.
Would he start? Would he start for you?
I suppose it's twofold. I think from Van Dijk's interview at the weekend, I have a fair indication. I think that he'll see out his contract and move on. So I'd be looking at it that if he came in, of course he'd start now because he's better than Kanate, so he would start alongside Van Dijk. But I think I'm thinking of more centre back coming in to potentially replace Van Dijk. I do feel from the interview at the weekend that he'll see out his time and then he'll look for a European move. So that would be my thing would be to go and get him. I think of the players that are available at the moment. I thought he's ball playing centre back, strong, he's quick enough as well. Again, it's a step up, but sure, like Van Dijk was at Southampton when we bought him. You know what I mean? Like so.
Fair point,
He's playing for Crystal Palace at a decent level and has been at a decent level himself. He was made their captain as well, which gives you the point that he's probably a leader as well. So, he'd be the one that I go for. And I think, look, if Newcastle are claiming over 65, 70 million, I'd pay the 70 for him now if I were Liverpool. And money isn't an object. They got a lot of money in from selling a lot of youth players there and got really good business actually and transfers out again this summer from Liverpool. So
you can imagine what Klopp thought of all that.
You know what?
Discussed it.
Yeah, I'd say there was an element of more, of course, loyalty. There were Klopp's kids. Klopp would have went and watched the youth squads. He brought them into the first team, but you have to, I suppose, be realistic about it. And the ones that we've sold, like I think with every club, is it can go awry with the likes of maybe a Palmer or ones that you think aren't going to turn into what they turn into. But I think for the money we got for some of ours, like there's not too many players at clubs that come through the youth. United have got a couple there now in Manu who's come in, like they've a couple coming in as well. Liverpool have a couple that have come through. But I think realistically, you're going to have a lot that don't make it, and then it's what can you get for them. And I think a lot of them last season, they came into the team, they done well when our numbers were low. We had a lot of injuries, but there wasn't too many there that I've questioned, like, would they make the step up to the ones that he sold? Like Carvalho, he's a decent player, but we didn't need the position that he wanted to play. He wasn't going to get any game.
Got like 20 odd million for him, like, as in it's a very
27
good,
plus 20% setup. So if it turns out that
this is the first season that United have done anything like that. Like this is the first season United have, if they sells back Tommy, sold 2 players for more than 20 million since 1920 or something ridiculous. So you're able to make money to keep yourself sustained. Deck, who are you going into that flawless City thing?
Mine is definitely more fantasy than reality, to be honest. I just think the one vulnerable area for City is at centre half, and I think we've seen it last season and definitely in the first, against at the weekend. And there's a Rodri out, fair enough, that might be the reason. But I just thought that there is a vulnerability there. It's our weaker, it's not very, very weak, but our weaker part of the team is at centre half. Diaz, Stones, Ake, Kanji, they're all very good, but they're not world class. Would you agree with me on that one?
Oh, you don't think Diaz is world class?
Do you think he's world class?
I
think they're very good. No, I think they're very good. But there is a world class player in the Premier League who I would love to see in the City team. And again, it's fantasy. It's Saliba.
Yeah.
And again, he is so he's only 22, 23, and I would regard him as probably one of the best in the world at the moment at centre half. I
100%.
mean,
Yeah.
what do you call it? Van Dijk, I see as world class. Saliba is world class. Diaz, very good. Akanji, very good. Ake, very good. Stones, very good. But we don't have a world class centre half. You know,
Doing all
I
right though, aren't you?
they're
My heart bleeds for
very,
you.
very well. Fuck off.
Absolute centre back. Remember the time that they sold Laporte like, and he was excellent, and they like just shipped him off like he was nothing, and he would have started for most clubs in the Premier League at the time.
Yeah, I just think, I'm just saying, right? I would love to see the likes of Saliba at City. It'll never happen, but that was just my pick.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what do you call it? We'll move on to fantasy football. Dan, how did your weekend go for you?
Hang on now. It was very interesting weekend. I looked just at the league table because it was very interesting to see how many captain Haaland of the people who were at the top of the table. So I looked
Yes.
at it, and then the top 10, 11, 12, 13, the top 13 people, I'm the only one that doesn't have Haaland. It's in the top. Who captained Haaland, at the weekend. A lot of them actually don't even have Salah as well. There's a few of them that don't. But yeah, everyone captained Salah, and leading the table is afternoon delete. So Paddy Carney, he's a good Meath man. I messaged him earlier on just to say, like, he got 103 points. He triple captained Haaland
Very
over
good.
the weekend. So I sent the message, and his response back to me was, "It's all downhill from here," which is a fair assessment too, because you won't be hitting them heights every single week. But the lads that
Okay.
are leading the line there, a few of them had triple captained Haaland. He got 51 points as his return for the
Okay.
weekend. So given the fact there won't be too many double game weeks this year, I don't think with the new European structure. That was fairly decent shout by the lads that did do it, and they're the ones that are leading the way. So we have to delete. That's Paddy Carney, and we have Dave McGrath, there, Davies Legends, who is just behind him, and Be Rude to win again. Is there on? So there's not much, like 186 is what's leading at the moment. I'm happy enough now. Like, look, I don't have Haaland in my team, and I was, as I messaged, I think, into the group, and I messaged you, Dex, said I'll have the pillow over my face watching the City to see it. I would have taken two. Now, look, he got a hat trick, but if you'd have told me after the opening was it 14, 15 minutes
Yeah.
that he'd only get three, I would have taken that too. So it's interesting. Yeah, Salah and Haaland are both on 24 points after 2 game weeks. So yeah, so there's also one or two. I won't name them, but one or two that panicked in particular. Sport and lesbian. You need
Hold
to have a
on,
word with it.
hold on. You have to name them. This is the place to
Well, I
name
named.
them.
So
Name and shame.
Mark Mulligan. Do we know Mark Mulligan?
I do. I
Oh,
know Muggsy well.
yeah, Mark had a bit of now for me it's panic because he's taken minus 12 there and made 4 transfers after the first week. So
Oh, Mark.
there's a bit of panic going on there. So yeah, I wasn't going to name it, but look, there you go. There you go.
Great name though for a club. I like that. Sport and
Yeah.
lesbian.
So he took a minus 12 hit there and brought in, who did he bring in? He brought in Canate, Bernardo Silva, Jebison, and Sanchez at Chelsea. Yeah, so that's who he brought in. So he can, yeah. Anyway, he's what was that?
That's what he brought in.
Is it your mic on?
Yeah, Deck, your mic is it gone?
Yeah, you're gone robotic mode. I can hardly hear you.
It just has there's one he prepared earlier. He's gonna whip out another one.
Is that any better?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so that was the fantasy football, Dan. Just out of curiosity, where do
Yeah.
we find Moss and Howard?
So
Oh, I did terrible, lad. I actually had a better week this week. My first week just killed me altogether.
I'm on
Alan same this week. I think I'm 70th.
Yeah, I'm looking down here now. I'm on 153, and I'm looking for Howard here, but I have to scroll down quite a bit. I'll find him eventually, though. He's on 133, so there's only 20 in him. He's down
I think
in
he's about 20 points ahead of me, I'd say. I think I'm around 100.
And then, where are you, Mossy? You're on my page here. You're on the next page. Yeah,
I think I'm 70th. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was delighted. I was up I was like, oh, I did terrible the first week, and then I jumped I was 55th. I was like, Jesus, this is a great improvement. And then everyone's bonus points kicked in, and I was all the way back there, and I was like, oh, right, okay.
Yeah, look, you don't have any Liverpool players, don't you? Not taking the punt on.
Nah, it's struggling now.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to bring him in though. Not yet. I'll have to wait a week. But
yeah, I I'm looking at, though, like it's our very early stage. No one has panicked. I don't think there's not too many wild cards have been used just yet. Nobody has panicked too much. So big weekend now coming next weekend. Looks like it'll probably be a Haaland captain. I'd say, I'd imagine there's not too many. Maybe Saka at home, maybe, but I'd say, people who've got Haaland in their team, if you captain or triple captain, you're happy enough, I think, with his start. And actually, De Bruyne is not one that many people have interestingly enough, but
Okay.
he looked good as well at the weekend. I think he'd be
Very
getting
good. Yeah.
back into a lot of people's teams. Few lads said as well the prices have gone down, and Kunku, I had to take him out. He doesn't look like he's going to get the minutes at the moment at Chelsea, so I had him in at the start. So I had to take him out. Just did a lot of other people, and I think a lot of people are going to put in Rodgers. I think he might be the one only worth 5 million, and he
Really?
looked like he could do damage. So he could be
Okay.
one that a lot of people might look to get in. That's our said. Again, it's great. Like, we have nearly 80 people in this league, so I'm sure there'll be lots of trials and tribulations as we go along. But yeah, good crack.
Absolutely. And again, what do you call it? The winner of our fantasy football in May will be receive a club jersey of their choice. So we'll move on to Super Six predictions. So it was a very good week for well, no, sorry, it wasn't a very good week for us. It was a very good week for Brian Crossan, Garrett Lenihan, Owen Costello, and Keelan McCartney, all joint leading on 27 points. Yeah, what did I get? I got the Liverpool score correct. I got 7 points, so I got one correct score, one correct result. That's it. I've had two
Yeah,
fairly poor weeks, Dan. Both of us have.
yeah. Me and you. Look, we've a poor week, but like the lads ahead of us, like we're on 14 and Howard's on 17 and Massey is on 19. What would be nice though is I haven't actually got a correct score yet, so I'd
Really?
like to, in week 3 to potentially get
Uh,
one. I don't know if you were following the crack at the weekend, but that somebody trained Liverpool for a
you were
million.
telling me that's insane.
Yeah, he had 5 corrects. Him or she had 5 correct scores, and yeah, I don't think you get anything for
What was their
1-0.
prediction for the Liverpool game?
3-0. Did
Oh,
3, yeah.
fuck.
Yeah. And you know what? When you seen it go 2-0 with was there 20 minutes to go at the time, you would have been,
Hopeful enough.
hopeful.
Oh, Jesus. No,
Um,
you'd lose it though.
but the lads that are leading now, I know a couple of them there anyway. So yeah, two United lads there, Owen, Bob Costello, and
Oh,
Brian
yeah.
Crossan. And yeah, Gary Lennon there as well from Mayo. So it's going to be interesting. We might actually look at, and we'll give you an out shout out and a bit of applause for whoever ends up being manager of the month. We'll look at the end of the month after next week since who had the most points for the month. I might give you a shout out. But
It's
look,
all luck.
it's very hard. Like
It's just luck.
every time we do City win to nil, they concede one, or anytime
Yeah.
we to concede one, they don't concede one. I never get Man City score right. Like it's.
Wow.
I had 4-0 at the weekend.
I had
You might
4-0
have
as well,
4.
yeah.
Yeah, but like they always
And,
seem to beat. It's so annoying. Yeah, it is.
yeah.
Look, it's very hard. I tried. I remember when I started doing this a couple of years ago to like really study it and really try and like what are the chances? And then I just now I
Doesn't
just pick
happen.
them usually on a Sunday. I just pick them. All right, I think it might be this, and then I don't really
This,
look at it
yeah,
again.
this was the beauty of my predictions league last year. Like it's all luck, it's pot luck. You're never going to actually get anything out of it. And that's what happened last year. And now the tables have turned. Like I'm suffering now as a result. It's all luck. It's never like, I mean, has everybody ever won this Super Six thing?
Nah, yeah, it wasn't a
Really?
million though. It used to be 250,000.
Wow. Okay. Fair
Then it
play.
went to half. I think it wasn't always a million. I don't think.
All right.
I
I
think they
think
added
somebody has
extra
won it.
fixtures as well. I think you have to
Okay.
pick more fixtures.
Well, ours is not 500,000. Ours is 100 cold hard cash. But, what
Which
do you
might be
call
a
it?
million to some people.
Well, look, Fecka, if I was to offer you €100 now, you'd take it. So
Yeah.
this week's fixtures. West Ham versus Man City, Newcastle and Spurs, Man United and Liverpool, Leicester and Aston Villa, Everton versus Bournemouth, and Notts Forest versus Wolves. So Dan, I'm going to start with you. Get your predictions for West Ham and City.
Yeah, I think City will win comfortably enough. Yeah, I think they'll have too much, and they've started the season well. Good result for West Ham for the weekend, but I can just envision them playing. Like Antonio start again. Will he go for the hat trick starts? Will he play again? Like I think him or Fulgrig will get a fair mauling off the City players. So I'm going for 2-0 City. I think they'll win a comfortably enough.
2-0 to City, very good. And Newcastle versus Spurs. That'll be an interesting one.
Me or us?
Sorry, Dan, you.
Yeah. I gone for 1-1. Yeah, I think Newcastle can turn up and put in performance. Like, they can get something for it, and like Spurs will always like you to concede. Yeah, like they just play so open and free flowing that they will. Newcastle will get chances. So I've gone for a draw, 1-1.
Okay. Moss, on to you. Big game, Man United versus Liverpool.
Yeah, I've just played it as a draw, to be honest. I feel like there's going to be goals and it'll be a draw. I've gone with United 2, Liverpool 2.
2-2. Just out of curiosity, Dan, what would you have gone for?
Yeah, I could gone for 2-1 Liverpool, but I probably would take a point now. If you offered me a point, I'd probably take it, to be honest. In the last couple of matches against United, where they've been a lot worse actually going into the games than they are at the moment, and we haven't beaten them. So there's been a couple of draws, and I think the last time we bet United was the 7-0 at Anfield. I was at, but yeah, in the last couple of results that we've had against them, they've been dour affairs. Some of them as well. The FA Cup game have been the exception, but I think. Yeah, I think United have, they're just that kind of game is always a strange
I think the
fixture.
pressure is
So
more so on United for the game. I think after losing to Brighton, they need a result
yeah,
and they're at home. So
yeah, true. Of course it is, and like what you said, I think it was the other way around. That it's a game that like you need to be winning, or you're going to be under a bit of it after.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think I gone 2-1 Liverpool, but I wouldn't be confident that we'll go to
if
Old Trafford
Liverpool
and
were to
win.
win and you go into the international break having lost 2 and won 1, Ten Hag is going to be the talk for the whole 2 weeks. Like,
Fair
whatever it is.
point.
So for the stability of the club, I'm hoping it's a draw, if not a United win, but we'll see.
We'll see.
What was the other one, Zach?
Sorry, Leicester versus Aston Villa.
I actually think this will be a very good game. Fancy Villa to score goals if Ollie Watkins finds his scoring boots. I went Villa 2 and Jamie Vardy with 1 for Leicester, 2-1 to Villa.
2-1. All right, cheers for that. So on to myself, Everton and Bournemouth. I've gone for 1-1. I think Everton will get their first point of the season. And then Notts Forest, nil, Wolves 1. I thought I saw enough from Wolves at the weekend to think that they will score goals. Losing Neto was a big one, but still think that they will have enough to meet. They'll have a normal season. They're not going to do anything major, but they're not going to be in trouble either. So yeah, there are 6 predictions for this weekend. Get your predictions in by 3 p.m. on Saturday. And as I said before, the winner of our own Super 6 League will get €100 at the end of the season. Just before we finish up, a reminder, first of all, a thank you to all who are subscribed and following us on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. Please do continue to subscribe and follow. Before we finish, man, any other business to discuss?
Just looking forward to our outing the weekend.
Yes.
Take a nice Fanatic podcast photograph.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, absolutely.
And where we have our outing that should have been during the summer, but we had to push it out. So we're meeting at the weekend for a few pints. So buying any other businesses, who's buying the first round?
Yes, absolutely.
Rock, paper, scissors. Howard's not here. It's clearly Howard.
Yeah, definitely. What's he call it? We're going to go watch the West Ham City match. Any other business? Nothing really to discuss. I'll say it again. Hopefully the imminent...
Other than the only thing I want to say was like Sven-Goran Eriksson's legacy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Passing away.
I was sad.
Yeah, it was sad. Yeah, because
managed a lot of clubs, didn't he?
Yeah,
I forgot some of them
very highly.
Yeah.
Nice
spoken very highly by players who work for him,
nice touch.
Beckham speaks very highly of him.
Yeah, that he got to manage at Anfield before he passed away.
That was class. Yeah, played charity game. It was against Ajax, and he was on the socials there today. Actually, after announcement was passed, and there's the video of him coming out. And that was a lifelong dream of his, was to manage Liverpool. So it was cool that the club were able to facilitate. And his documentary is supposed to be really good. I think it's out now as well. And I was going to watch it, and I still will watch it. But it's sad, considering as well how quickly it seemed like it wasn't a long ago the news was announced that he was terminally ill, and it's sad how quickly that things went downhill for him. But he has definitely a legacy. I think probably unlucky not to go further in a couple of tournaments with England as well. And big results into one. Was he manager for the 5-1 think away
Yeah.
in Germany, wasn't it? He was the England manager, and as you said there, he won a lot of trophies. I think I remember when they mentioned it earlier on, I didn't realize he won so many. Was
Yeah,
it nearly 20? You think?
yeah. He was his manager of Man City actually for a season.
Yeah,
And I always laugh because remember our famous signing Joe.
yeah,
Yeah.
Remember Joe?
yeah.
Joe, like there's always
Brazilian, yeah.
yeah, there's always a mystery surrounding who actually signed Joe because he came in after Sven left City and before Mark Hughes came into City. So Joe was signed, so nobody actually knows who the manager was when Joe was signed to City. So but yeah, no, Sven
And nobody
Brothers,
wants to claim it either, Deck, did
nobody
they?
want, definitely not, definitely not. But no, Sven brought in the likes of Alano. Do you remember him?
Yeah. Brazilian, was he? Was he
Yeah,
Brazilian?
he could strike the ball. He had a fantastic
Mm.
set piece. Who was Alano, Petrov? He brought in some great players actually. And the season he managed City, he managed 2 wins over United that year as well, actually.
There you go.
So yeah, he will be missed in football circles. That's it for this week, man. Howard will be joining us again next week, and also meant to mention next week will be our predictions week, given that we enter into the international week and the transfer window is closed. So I'm going to make our predictions for the Premier League winner, Champions League spots, Europa League spots, relegation, FA Cup, and we'll probably
Who
throw in
finishes higher in the fantasy football?
yeah, we'll probably throw in some ridiculous ones as well. But yeah, now listen, lads, thank you very much as always, and we'll be talking to you again next week, okay?
Cheers, Zach.
Mind yourself,
All
lads.
right.
Good luck.
Thanks, lads. Cheers, man.